been a secret project we've been working on for a long time.
What are you doing back there? Let's say it like it is, right? They got caught spying on our election.
Okay, baby. We're awake this morning. And we're going to be awake to something that is an ongoing practice. Something that Dwight Eisenhower called one of the scariest black boxes inside of our government. Dwight Eisenhower was the commanding general during World War II. And when he became president, he started to see that enormous amounts of money was being siphoned away from the taxpayers and put into the black box of American intelligence. The American intelligence agencies, after World War II, in the sort of reconstruction of the New World Order, which is what they call it in their own documentation, decided to make themselves kings of the earth, decided to use the hegemony of American power to create black boxes, which of course you can't find them in the Constitution, but they create a world of darkness where we have no insight into how the money's being spent. No American official, no elected representative, no president even can touch the money, can look into the actual machinations of this group of intelligence operatives who are dead set on one thing: retention of power, lack of oversight. True actual power in this country is being able to tell the president what to do. True actual power, who's the most powerful man in the world? Well, the president of the United States. So if you control the president of the United States, if he's scared of you, well, that makes you the most powerful person on earth. And over the course of the last 70 years, our intel agencies have set about creating a octopus-like tentacle web that can really pluck at the strings and terrify even those who are rightfully elected representatives of the United States. People that have Article 1 constitutional power. Article 1, first for a reason, should have oversight over everything in our federal government, our Congress, and these people are scared shitless of these people. They come on our show to talk about it. Members of Congress come on our show to say, I am terrified of waking up in a bed and there's like a naked woman next to me and I've been set up. I am terrified of being set up by our intel agencies. Members of Congress has come forward saying they've been honeypotted by our own intelligence agencies on this program, making international news. If you control the powerful people, then you're in control. It's a pretty simple equation. And so our intelligence agencies have been going about the truly maniacal. I mean, you have to attribute, you either in life when something bad happens, you have to attribute either ignorance or malevolence. Okay, so either the person's so dumb that they're doing something that hurts you and they don't even know. It's flowers for Algernon, right? Like, squeeze the mouse, like gonna hit you with the hammer. Like you're just too stupid to understand you're doing something bad. Or you're malevolent. You actually know you're doing something bad and you don't give an F. You don't give a rip because it means you remain powerful. Like the FBI, for instance, writing MLK suicide notes. Okay? That's something that the FBI did. They admit to it. You can go find it in their archives. Did you know that? Is that something that's taught in school? That the FBI was trying to get MLK to kill himself? Because they literally were. And you can go read the suicide notes. They're available for everyone to read. That's just one of course, many, many things that our intel agencies do, our four-letter agencies do, inside of their black box that we don't have insider oversight of. This is like a outside of the Constitution realm of operation for our federal government. It's completely and totally illegal based on our founding and based on how this government was supposed to be designed. There is no justification for it. And of course, what's going to happen is, well, absolute power will be corrupted absolutely, right? As the old John Locke statement goes. And so I'd like to fast forward to something that happened quite recently, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to fast forward to something that happened that has nothing to do with Donald Trump, because I'd like to actually remove Trump from this equation. We're going to talk about how Barack Obama and John Brennan were ordered, John Brennan was himself ordered to spy on Donald Trump by Barack Obama. But I want to go back before Barack Obama was even in the Senate. I want to go back when Donald Trump didn't even have The Apprentice show yet. Donald Trump was still doing cameos in Little Rascals, right? Home Alone 2. Into a maybe simpler time, maybe not. The year's 1999. Ladies and gentlemen, our own government in 1999, and by government, I'm talking our own CIA, worked within the confines of the CIA's charter, which is to not run intel operations on Americans domestically. The CIA is supposed to be a purely clandestine organization that operates overseas, right? Outside of the American borders. This is, interestingly enough, exactly why the CIA was so perfect for Jeffrey Epstein. That's why Epstein had to have his little island just off the shores of America. The CIA can do operations there. The CIA could gather intel on Little St. James. How did Jeffrey Epstein get all those millions and billions of dollars? Oh, really, it's a curious question. Maybe that's why the black box exists around the CIA and no one can penetrate it. Maybe that's why. You ever asked yourself that question? Anyway, that's not what this show's about. This show is about how the CIA inadvertently created the literal conditions for September 11th and how they covered it up. I want to talk about that for just a second before we get to our main story, because I need to set the table here for how this all happened and how the CIA operates and how culpable they are for some of the greatest horrors that have been visited upon the American people. I mean, we don't even have to bring up Kennedy getting assassinated, but we should. Tucker Carlson having CIA whistleblowers coming on his show saying that, yeah, the CIA was totally involved in Kennedy's assassination. Kennedy was planning on shutting down the CIA because he's like, what the F? I can't look at where you're spending your money, says World War II veteran and hero John Kennedy. You think that you're above the executive and you serve me? Oh, yeah, we'll scatter you like 1,000 pieces to the winds, John Kennedy says about the CIA. And lo and behold, John Kennedy, well, let's just say he needed to do oversight of the CIA like he needed a hole in the head, right? And what do you know? That problem was solved. What's the point? We don't even have to go into ancient history. Let's go. I wasn't alive during the Kennedy assassination, which was absolutely a conspiracy by government actors. Not even the Secret Service agents are now coming out and saying that. Amazing how this stuff gets covered up. Even the Secret Service agents for Kennedy are like old, they're in their 90s, and they're saying, yeah, there were multiple shooters. It's a conspiracy. I digress. Here's the report, ladies and gentlemen, from our own government. How could the CIA have been involved in 9/11? Well, according to this report, I encourage you to read it. Let's put up the actual government report. It is here on your screen. Please, I beg of you, go and read it. We'll put it in the show notes. We'll link it in the description. Go and read it. This report by Donald Castriano, interviewing various members of the FBI, CIA, and Guantanamo Bay prisoners, the guys who planned September 11th. He concludes in this massive report that has been released without any redactions that according to his extensive communications with everyone inside of these agencies, whistleblowers, key people, inside all these agencies, before 9/11, during 9/11, and after 9/11, his report finds that the CIA, quite literally, worked with other intelligence agencies, the Saudis specifically, to bring in the hijackers into our country, to welcome them here, to take the 9/11 hijackers that they knew were terrorists. They literally targeted the terrorists to bring them into the country. Oh, does that scare the hell out of you? When you think about what's happening at our border? Do you know that these terrorists were here illegally also? Goodness gracious. How stupid are we as a nation? Our own government, this report's been declassified, our own government investigator found that the pilots, the terrorists that executed 9/11 were brought here by the CIA in coordination with the Saudis for, again, ignorance or malevolence. Which one is it? Did they do it because they wanted to spy on the terrorists and like find out how their network worked and they thought it'd be really neat to have them stateside? Well, then they're functionally have lower brain cognitive capacity than Joe Biden does, if that's what they thought. Or was it malevolent? Who knows? The report doesn't go into the lower, like the deeper moral functionings of this. But what the report states, let's just put it up one more time. What the report states unequivocally is that FBI officials suppressed the information that the CIA brought in with the help of the Saudis, the actual 9/11 hijackers. How the hell did they get here? How did they get flight training? How are these guys who weren't American citizens, didn't have documentation able to go to pilot school? You ever wonder about that? How'd Jeff Ramsey get all of his money? Don't ask too many questions. Shut up. Yeah. Remember, the Hunter Biden laptop's Russian disinformation. The CIA told us so. Okay. So what does this establish? This establishes that these agencies see themselves as gods. They see themselves as outside of the boundaries of the Constitution, outside of the functionings of our constitutional republic, and that they can operate with total impunity regardless of who gets hurt or who gets destroyed. Okay? That is a fact pattern that is evident with the CIA. And I haven't even mentioned the name Trump, okay? I'm doing this based on the government's documentations about their own actions and culpability on 9/11. And I haven't even mentioned Donald Trump, okay? So now let's get into it, okay? And before we do, I mean, I think it's worth noting that this whole Saudi government thing, like, this isn't cuckoo stuff anymore. This is mainstream stuff. This is stuff that's been discussed, talked about on corporate media airwaves. This is stuff that's been brought up by Republican candidates for president. These are mainstream ideas that are based on facts that are delivered to us by our own government that we paid for. Okay? An example. Here you go.
9/11, inside job or exactly how the government tells us?
I don't believe the government has told us the truth. Again, I'm driven by evidence and data. What I've seen in the last several years is we have to be skeptical of what the government does tell us. I haven't seen evidence to the contrary, but do I believe everything the government told us about it? Absolutely not.
I asked two questions.
The 9/11 Commission? Absolutely not.
I mean, Vic, I think people look at those comments. They look at what you said in the Atlantic, which you say you were misquoted. They look at comments that you've made about the Federal Reserve adding zeros to media companies' bank accounts. And I mean, it looks like you're floating conspiracy theories with this defense of I'm just asking questions.
Well, when you actually quote me, those are my words, and I stand by them. So somebody else quoting me, putting words in my mouth, I have a problem with. But those words I stand by. You want to know why? Because we literally know the FBI, the 9/11 Commission, the U.S. government on down told us specifically that Saudi Arabia had no involvement. 20-plus years later, quietly declassifying documents showing that not only did Saudi Arabia have involvement, it was a Saudi intelligence agent that received two of those terrorists that crashed planes on 9/11, killing
But the
Americans
question was, is
on American
9/11 an
soil.
inside job? And you didn't say no.
You can always tell when a Operation CONTELPRO or Operation Mockingbird agent, when somebody who's being run by the intel agencies hears too much truth, they'll interrupt, right? Caitlin Collins there on CNN doing a masterclass and just saying, no, wait. Talking over Vivek when he's making his point. I mean, this is actually a great tactic. When somebody's saying the truth, which Vivek just said, that our own government admits that the CIA was working with the Saudis in order to bring the hijackers to America, she goes, Like that, it's amazing. Vivek continued, ladies and gentlemen. This is a lawsuit, of course, by the victims of 9/11, these families that are destroyed. Maybe you know somebody who served on 9/11. Maybe you know somebody who lost a family member on 9/11. I certainly do. Do you? Do you know a cop or a firefighter or somebody who was in the World Trade Center? God forbid. But there were 3,000 Americans that were slaughtered on that day, and then many afterward who succumbed to horrible cancers or deaths because they were told that the asbestos, like the pure asbestos that they were sucking into their lungs from the collapse of the towers, that was just totally fine, that they were good. Incredible. I mean, truly malevolent. I mean, that's true malevolence. Those families are suing the government, saying that they've lied about the Saudi Arabia involvement now and continue to lie about it. Our federal government. Watch.
But that Saudi Arabia absolutely was involved, and our government for 20 years lied to the American people about it.
There was an entire
That is
9/11
hard
commission
fact,
report
actually.
on this.
Yes, and it lied, and it was false. And in fact, you know where that's coming out, Caitlin? There's now a federal case in the Southern District of New York, where the government of Saudi Arabia is being sued by victims of families.
their
That's why
families,
this is
yes.
resurfacing itself. It is relevant, and it turns
But
out
there's a difference
in those
in asking
declassified
questions
documents
about Saudi
that the
Arabia's
government lied.
involvement and the government's involvement, and then pushing this idea that whenever what your comment about who was on the plane and then was 9/11 an inside job where you did not say no earlier. That's why.
So don't ever talk about the actual facts. Go in immediately to the smear. Smearing Vivek Ramaswamy, smearing him with a slur, right? Conspiracy theorists. It's in the government documents. Last time, Rolls-Royce, put up the government report. Dudes, if you want to actually have it out, let's put up the report. There it is, signed by Donald Castriano himself, the lead investigator for our government on the 9/11 commission with a special pedigree and a special charge to look into the causes of September 11th, found that the CIA is the cause of the September 11th. It is breathtaking. This document from our government. So call it whatever you want. Use whatever smear you wish. But I want to establish a fact pattern here that the CIA does work with foreign governments in order to do illegal activities on our soil. Those terrorists should have never been in this country, and the CIA operationally should have never been allowed to bring them here, but they did it anyway. They didn't give a damn. They didn't care about you. They've never apologized for it as they clothe and robe themselves in patriotism. The opposite is, in fact, true. Many of these people hate this country. They hate you. They hate the fact that you send people like Donald Trump to go be their boss and to go piss in their punch bowl, proverbially. And so they create actual lies about where Donald Trump pees. I guess to be like particularly grotesque about it, I'm talking about the Russia collusion lie, the entire dossier, the PP dossier as it's called, as it's been known, because it had such gratuitous, hysterical, if you're looking at it from a comedy perspective, lies about Donald Trump and what he did in Russia. They created an entire document. And now we know that the predicate for all of that was the CIA being told by their true Lord and Taskmaster, because they aligned politically, finally, Barack Obama equally wishing to bring about sort of a Marxist totalitarianism in America. And the CIA would love nothing more than a Marxist totalitarianism in America, because that would create the security state that they so desperately desire, because that makes them warlords and gods over all of us. It is what they've attempted to create all around the world. They staged a coup in Ukraine in 2014, and we're still cleaning up the mess for that. Amazing how it all spins around the axle of this single evil organization. The history of America changed forever. The true revolutions in our country, the true dangers in our country, a danger from within, not without. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the breaking news from this morning. The breaking news from this morning here reading to you from the New York Post, but it's all over the place. CIA and foreign intelligence agencies illegally targeted 26 Russian associates before 2016 Russia collusion claims report. Okay? U.S. intelligence community was asked foreign spy agencies. Okay? So that fits the bill, right? The CIA is working with other foreign nations to do illegal activities here in America to surveil 26 associates of Donald Trump in the run-up to the 2016 election, which triggered the allegations that the former president's campaign had been colluding with Russia. The former CIA director, John Brennan, CNN, MSNBC commentator, it's a reminder that these news organizations are completely and totally at the service of our intel agencies. They are mouthpieces, repeating and being stenographers for the lies of these agencies. In fact, somebody named Natasha Bertrand just was promoted at CNN. You may recall that name because that's the person who wrote that 51 intel experts say that the Hunter Biden laptop had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. Had no proof, had no evidence, just had filthy, despicable, rodent-like intelligence agents from our intel agencies signed the letter that was orchestrated by Anthony Blinken, who also just got who was rewarded for lying to the American people. They lied to you, and they're getting promotions for it. They're getting rewarded for it. Okay? Just to show you how this works. So John Brennan, never suffering any consequences, identified and presented the targets of the U.S. intelligence sharing partners to the so-called Five Eyes agencies. These are the intelligence gathering organizations, the U.S., United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, according to a report published Monday on Michael Schellenberger's public Substack. The report by independent journalists Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi and Alice Gutentag had not been confirmed by the Post. They cite multiple unnamed sources, including one close to House Permanent Select Committee intelligence led by Rep. Mike Turner. Turner's office did not respond to the Post for comment. The U.S. intelligence community had identified 26 Trump associates as people to bump or make contact with or manipulate. In spy speak, bumping is when a reason is manufactured to meet with a target of interest in order to develop a relationship that could lead to intelligence. They were targets of our own intelligence community and law enforcement, targets for collection of and misinformation. Britain's government commission's headquarters intelligence apparatus was making contacts with Trump's associates as early as March 2016. They were making contacts and bumping Trump people going back to 2016, a source told the outlet. They were sending people around the UK, Australia, and Italy, and Mossad in Italy. MI16 was working with an intelligence school that they had set up. They were wiretapping, and they were trying to get Donald Trump on the phone through second-tier wiretapping. And the way that it works is if you are an intel agent, if you are the source that the intelligence agencies are going after, then any person that you're talking with or any person that you're texting with suddenly gets entrapped inside of sort of the cone of their surveillance of you. So, of course, they were going after all of Donald Trump's. They did this in a kind of clumsy but also kind of smart way. They went after all these people that were talking with Trump, knowing that Donald Trump was going to call and text all these people so they could actually spy on Trump, which is actually what they were doing. This was an intel operation that was being run in order to service the Hillary Clinton campaign. They were quite literally spying on behalf of the Hillary Clinton campaign. That was the actual function of this. So every time somebody texted Trump or talked with Trump or spoke with the Trump inner circle, they were able to then harvest and gather Donald Trump himself. Intelligence related to the alleged surveillance effort is housed in a 10-inch binder, according to the outlet, which Trump ordered to be declassified at the end of his presidency and could contain evidence that multiple U.S. intelligence officials broke laws, spying, and election interference. My God. The whereabouts of the binder is unknown. The Trump campaign and the CIA did not respond to the request to comment. Do you see? Are your eyes open? Do you see why they had to raid Melania's closet? Understand that these people have no interest in Melania's unmentionables. They don't care. Okay? They've seen enough cross-dressing J. Edgar Hoover used to be their boss, right? Amazing how these people are so obsessed with other people's fetishes when they themselves are such duplicitous, despicable creatures. Go look at, I mean, that's not a slight. Go look at J. Edgar Hoover. Go look at like the reporting. Go look at the guy's life. He was in charge for like 50 years of the FBI, and they named a building after him. He's the guy who was behind the MLK assassin, like MLK suicide letters, and they name a building after him. Got it? Go study the history of these places. They are just absolutely, they really should be scattered to the wind. You really have to start over. There is no reforming these agencies. The CIA, the FBI, all of them. They are also all extra-constitutional. None of them have any grounding or mooring in the constitutional formations of this government, nor should they. We've created the kings that we revolted against. We've created them here, and they're far worse than King George. They're actually far more powerful than King George, and we can prove it here, ladies and gentlemen. They can manipulate truth itself. It's a terrifying thing to talk about because we say often on this program that the truth shall set you free, and we believe that. But there is a tactic that has been used in all of this to manipulate what we know to be true as a country. It's called the wrap-up smear. It's important to talk tactics on the battlefield. It's important to talk logistics. Logistics actually gets you to the battlefield. So what is the logistics? The battlefield is obviously the information warfare that we try and fight every single day. The logistics to get people to the battlefield is really important. The logistics here matter. The wrap-up smear is a tactical PR weapon that is used by these agencies and their complicit media organs in order to cover up a crime like this. And how do you do that? It's very explicit. And the rules of engagement are very concrete. Nancy Pelosi actually, in a moment of either sobriety or extreme drunkenness, I'm not sure which, exposed exactly how it works. Now, once again, I want to show you this absent the vacuum of Donald Trump, or actually, correctly, inside of a vacuum, without Trump at all. Because these clips are before Donald Trump. The 9/11 stuff is before Donald Trump burst onto the scene. Decades before, actually. This clip from Nancy Pelosi is before Donald Trump. I want to establish a fact pattern of how these people operate. Nancy Pelosi is a willing and wanton organ of the intel community. How do you think she got so filthy rich? Who do you think picks these stocks? Who do you think puts the money in the account for their servile agents? Nancy Pelosi, being one of those agents, explained exactly how our intelligence agencies operate their media organs. It's called the wrap-up smear, and the rules are this. When you're guilty of a crime, you accuse someone else, you accuse your opponents, Republicans always, of the same crime, then you make up lies about those Republicans, and you merchandise it to the press, which you own. The press repeats it like willing canaries, like willing mockingbirds, and then you're able to say, well, look, my opponent's guilty. And you're able to muddy the waters in such a way that nobody can ever know what's true. Watch.
Down hospitals and the rest of it. So they don't want them to see that contrast, so they focus on something else. And it's a diversionary tactic. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to talk politics, you call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and they'll say, see, it's reported in the press that this, and this. So they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic, and it's self-evident. But I think I'm worth the trouble.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nancy Pelosi just explained there the entire operation here against Donald Trump. They are guilty of colluding with Russia. That's where the dossier comes from. The dossier comes from Russian disinformation to try and rig an election. That's quite literally, the Steele dossier is based on Russian disinformation. It's based on Russian agents. They were the ones coordinating with Russia to try and slander their opponent. They were the ones colluding with Russia. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, but it's true. Also, in engaging with Donald Trump, and here we go, FBI Russia, FBI official who helped launch Trump Russia probe, sentenced for 4 years in prison for working with Russian oligarch. There it is. Here you go. You want your... I don't even need to present evidence. The headlines write themselves. The FBI official that launched the Trump Russia probe sentenced for colluding with Russia. It writes itself. It's so bloody obvious what's going on. It gets worse. It always gets worse. Ladies and gentlemen, when Joe Biden and Barack Obama held a meeting, and it's very important that Joe Biden was part of this meeting because this is all part of a wrap-up. Joe Biden's entire presidency is part of a wrap-up for what the scams they were all running in Ukraine. Both the Romneys and the Bidens and the Clintons. They were all using Ukraine as their own honeypot. Like they were like picking apples over there. Ukraine was a slush fund for our elites. They staged a coup in 2014 in Ukraine, the CIA did. And then our elites swooped in to grab the spoils of that coup. And Zelensky, to this very day, is blackmailing. And this is what he's doing. He's blackmailing the American elites. That's why you just saw another $100 billion signed off for in the Senate to go to Ukraine. It's quite literally mafia blackmail. Zelensky has all the evidence, all the information. And I pray to God, I don't pray for Zelensky. Okay, I got to tell you, the guy's evil. But, you know, what do they say about the company of thieves, right? No honor among thieves. I hope that guy goes when he's finally seeing the end, right? Whatever that may be, ousted by his own people, whatever. I hope he releases everything. Just have it all out. Like we can handle the truth. Just publish it all. What were the Bidens doing? What were the Romneys doing? What were the Clintons doing? What was everyone doing? They were all like using Ukraine as their own little money pot. Every corrupt deal under the sun. Donald Trump was impeached for simply asking these questions. And it all gets back to the very root, is that Donald Trump wasn't in on the scam. All of these scams. And what's the biggest one? The biggest scam of all. This is bigger than Watergate. Bigger than any scandal in American history. Is that a sitting president ordered his opponent to be spied on by our own intelligence agencies, and they complied. They said, yeah, they didn't say, good God, man, we're going to report you. You need to go to Guantanamo Bay. We're going to put you in prison for asking us this. They dutifully marched to those orders. Barack Obama was the outgoing president. He had no power. But he was able to order on December 5th, 2017, after Donald Trump was president-elect, he had a meeting with Joe Biden, and he ordered John Brennan and his intel heads to spy on Trump. That is what Barack Obama did. It is a horrific crime. He must be prosecuted for this crime. And more importantly, this is very, 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 very valuable to understand. This is what is definitionally called seditious conspiracy. This is an insurrection. This is quite literally, by definition, insurrection, because the definition of insurrection and seditious conspiracy is you are trying to take power from those rightfully elected, Donald Trump, rightfully, lawfully, legally elected in 2016. This is Barack Obama using weaponized agencies to strip him of power. And hot damn, that they did. Because talk to anybody that worked in the Trump administration. I know so many people that worked in the Trump administration. People that work in the Trump administration work at this company. like the black cloud of Russia collusion that hung over all their heads, the kneecapping of that administration. Donald Trump should get 2 more terms because they were able to effectively destroy or eliminate or so harm his first term in office that I'm not sure it should even count for a term. And they did this through seditious conspiracy. And so remember the wrap-up smear, that's what they have to accuse MAGA of. Their sins, they must accuse us of. If they colluded with Russia, they have to accuse Donald Trump of colluding with Russia. They're literally guilty of the sin, so they must accuse their enemy of the same thing they're doing. Merchandise it to the press, and then wrap it all up. They are guilty of seditious conspiracy and insurrection. Do not miss that point. Let it ring like a bell in your head. They are the seditious conspiracy theorists. They are the insurrectionists. This is the act of insurrection, definitionally. And also, Barack Obama was doing this from a position of power where he actually had the power to do it. And he was doing it to his political enemy who was taking power from him. That's insurrection. So what do they have to do? At about the same time, almost the exact same time during Donald Trump's departure of the White House, they were able to manufacture their own insurrection, seditious conspiracy, to slander, smear Trump with. The wrap-up smear. It's so perfect. Rings like a bell, ladies and gentlemen. And so this is why they raided Trump's Mar-a-Lago. They needed to get these documents. They needed to find that binder that exposes everything, ladies and gentlemen. This is the greatest conspiracy and the greatest government scandal of our time. Thankfully, it is getting the air and the attention that it deserves. Okay? Here's Jesse Waters from last night talking to the man who broke this story, explaining the story. It is really important to see in context. Let's go.
Brand new details about how Obama's CIA targeted Trump and started the entire Russia hoax. For years, we were told that tips from an Australian diplomat tipped off the FBI after a random conversation with Papadopoulos, a no-name 20-something. But according to new reporting by Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi, the whole thing was a CIA setup. Former CIA Director John Brennan identified 26 Trump associates to be targeted by the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, and then those interactions were the targets and were targeted by the FBI as suspicious. And that's how the FBI launched the Russia collusion hoax. The details of this entire operation have been stored in a top-secret binder in a secret room in Washington. Trump ordered the whole thing declassified, and now the rumor is that the binder might be missing. Michael, explain how this all started with the CIA picking these 26 Trump people.
Yeah, good to be with you, Jesse. Well, obviously, this is an extremely serious story and serious allegation by multiple credible sources that Public and Racket, that's Matt Taibbi's publication, have spoken to. These are people that are close to the House intelligence investigation of how the Russia collusion hoax began. The story, as you mentioned, was that, we were just informed by foreign intelligence about this. Our sources tell us a very different story, which is that this was initiated by the U.S. government. It came from within the U.S. government's intelligence community, including the CIA, that they asked the so-called Five Eyes nations intelligence agencies, that's the other English-speaking nations, including Britain and Australia, to spy on 26 Trump associates, or at least they had a list of the 26 associates that were identified. This is new information. Some people have theorized about this and speculated about it. We feel very confident that our sources were in a position to know and are very credible in this report. And it's obviously a very serious allegation because this is illegal spying and it's illegal election interference.
Trump interfered in an election. Trump's an insurrectionist. Trump's guilty of seditious conspiracy. Donald Trump colluded with Russia. Every one of those crimes has been exposed as something that Barack Obama ordered. All of them. That Hillary Clinton and her campaign engaged in and paid for. And has never had to suffer any penalties for it. When I tell you that this election is a referendum on a group of people that believe that they are gods, blasphemously believe that they are gods, and that they can get away with anything, and they can violate you, your constitution, your rights, desecrate your nation, I am not being superfluous. To his great credit, man, we do not give this man credit enough. Donald Trump has been calling this out from 1,000 yards away. Didn't have to. Could have let it slide. Could have just gone along like every other president, what the intel agencies tell him to do. Invade Iraq. Hey, Bush, invade Iraq. You know, we, the CIA, facilitated bringing the 9/11 hijackers in here, but invade Iraq and invade Afghanistan. It's really smart. But did Iraq take down the World Trade Center? Doesn't matter. Just do it. Did Afghanistan have anything to do with the September 11th attacks? You know what? It'll look strong. It'll look good. We want to put some Air Force bases there that we'll totally abandon in 20 years and give it to the Chinese, who have kind of the state that we actually want. A super police security state. So we love the Chinese for that reason. Guys, Donald Trump could have just done what every other president does and said, okay, I'm scared of you people. But that's not the way Trump does business. A look back, ladies and gentlemen, just a very quick flashback of Donald Trump being so right about all of this, in spite of the pressure from the owned and operated intelligence organs pushing back on him. Unbelievable, the clarity of these clips when you see them in historic context. Watch.
So the biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign. They spied on my campaign.
There's no real evidence of that.
Of course there is.
No.
It's all over the place. Leslie,
Sir,
they spied on my campaign and they got caught.
Can I say something? You know, this is 60 Minutes, and we can't put on things we can't verify.
You won't put it on because it's bad for Biden.
We can't put on things we can't verify.
Leslie, they spied on my campaign.
Well, we can't verify that.
It's been totally verified.
No.
It's been, just go down and get the papers. They spied on my campaign, they got caught.
No.
And then they went much further than that, and they got caught. And you will see that, Leslie, and you know that, but you just don't want to put it on the air.
As a matter of fact, I don't know that.
Donald Trump shared this meme at around the time of that clip. This is Barack Obama, of course, spying on Donald Trump. But much like everything that Donald Trump does, there are subtleties to it and different layers of meaning. This clip, I didn't know quite what to make of it. When Donald Trump first said this, we have it in the documents. Oh, what do you mean exactly? Have a listen.
We have it documented. We have it in texts. We have it in all sorts of forms. They knew about it. It was a terrible thing. Should have never happened and should never be allowed to happen again to a president. This should never happen again. This was a setup like we've never seen. I think it's the political crime of the century. And they've been caught. So let's see what happens to them all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
It in the documents. We have it in the texts. Have you ever seen any texts about Donald Trump being spied on? Have you seen any documents? Apparently, according to the report, all of these documents, texts, and all the information about this was delivered to Donald Trump in a binder. Donald Trump saw it, read it, and knew about the entire scheme, knew every actor in the scheme, and tried and was successful at declassifying it, which is his plenary right as president. He declassified this document, and then it gone. Went missing. Vanished. And then Donald Trump's house gets raided, looking for a very specific document. They even went through Melania's unmentionables, looking for a very specific binder. They would never tell you what it was. They took all of Donald Trump's papers and chucked them on the floor. You remember the photos. Threw them on the floor looking for a very specific thing. They wouldn't tell us what they were looking for, and this is exactly what they were looking for. They are desperate to hoover that missing binder back up, because that is the bombshell of the century, ladies and gentlemen, and it will rip open the eyes of even the most ardent, blue anon, we call them, believers in Democrat propaganda. Michael Schellenberger, who considers himself a Democrat, the independent journalist who broke the story, said this is exactly what these raids are all about. Watch.
There has been widespread speculation that this binder was the reason or a reason for the FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago, and we'll be discussing that tomorrow. But obviously, if this binder contains what we have been told that it contains, which may include raw intelligence, information showing that the U.S. government, the CIA and the intelligence community of the U.S. government, initiated the Russia collusion hoax, that it did not occur in the way that the official story, including the Durham investigation, had portrayed it, then that's extremely serious information. And it may be, if the FBI then went to go get it in order to continue the cover-up of this information, that obviously adds an even more dramatic wrinkle to this. Again, we'll have more to say about it tomorrow, but this is a huge, huge story. I mean, I've been thinking about it in the history of the United States of America. Have we ever had something like this where the intelligence community was weaponized against a political candidate and using our foreign allies to do it? I can't think of a more important or dramatic story.
Yeah. So, of course, the missing binder story is 100% real. You know that because the intel agencies have gone to their willful mouthpieces and stenographers to have them mule, bitch, and moan and scream about it. Watch.
Why is this significant to the American people?
So this binder that was brought to the White House contained raw intelligence that the U.S. and its NATO allies collected on Russia's efforts to meddle in the 2016 election, including sources and methods, which are some of the most sensitive information in the intelligence world. So what we're talking about here is the underlying intelligence that formed the basis of the U.S. government's assessment that Russian President Vladimir Putin sought to help Trump win the 2016 election. And the disappearance of this binder was so alarming to intelligence officials that, according to our sources, they briefed Senate Intelligence Committee leadership about the situation last year. Now, we're told by one U.S. official familiar with the matter that this was not among the classified items that were found in last year's search of Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, and it wasn't why the FBI searched Trump's residence. But
Wait. Okay, unbelievable here. So this binder is proof that they spied on Trump. Yet the organs of the intel agencies, like the little dutiful reporters on CNN, Mockingbirds, saying, saying this is very important NATO information about Russia's attempts to interfere in the 2016 election. The wrap-up smear. Remember, just look at it through the prism, reverse it. Put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it. This is the truth. They were caught. This is them using their agencies and intel operational partners in Europe to spy on Trump. It's the exact opposite. The exact opposite. There's somebody who's been calling this out, who knows exactly what was in this binder. He's been on our show. He's been a friend of our show. And he has been singing this tune for years, actually. He told us what was going to happen before the Mar-a-Lago raid. ALX and I, executive producer ALX and I, still literally gasping, that, like, Kash Patel came on the show and straight up just told us the Mar-a-Lago raid was going to happen. Incredible. If there's one man you should listen to here, it's Kash Patel, the guy who was in charge of Donald Trump's intelligence agencies. Okay? The guy who was in charge, like chief of staff of the Pentagon. Have a listen.
Well, the current FBI director, Chris Wray, was the FBI director when we ran the Russiagate investigation, and he had the opportunity then to expose all the corruption at the FBI, and he failed, and he's been covering up since. Look, we said since the beginning, we got out 60% of the documents for the Russiagate investigation. 40% remained. President Trump declassified those specific documents, and this entire raid on his house, I believe, was to prevent the disclosure now that the government gangsters are back in charge of their corrupt activities from Russiagate on down, because now that they have an open FBI counterintelligence investigation, they will shield any release of documents because they will say we have an open investigation. Congress has a lot of work to do, and I'm glad whistleblowers are coming forward.